Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the ORIVETI Dynabird. So this one came out a little while ago, so we're not going to spend a ton of time going over the accessories or cables or all the other stuff, but I did want to give you a quick look at it, what it looks like up close. There you go, bleqk. I think that's how you pronounce it, Dynabird. So it's actually a cool looking shell. It's a nice metal build. It's got kind of a unique tuning filter where they cut out a little hole and put a damper behind it. They said that was going to be their way to get super fine, accurate tuning. So that I thought that was actually pretty interesting. When we look at the graph, we'll kind of see how that all turned out. But yeah, black cable, nice metal build, nice box. I think all of that is actually quite nice. So what is this one? It is a custom 9.2 millimeter beryllium-coated dynamic driver. So yeah, on paper, it is a very nice dynamic driver, something that they either developed or had developed for them. Something a little bit unique. Beryllium-coated dynamic drivers are actually kind of nice. On the graph, the graph kind of looks okay. They don't put any numbers on the graph, which always inspires confidence, but it kind of looks okay. So what does it sound like? It's basically a V shape, but very much lower treble centered. So the bass curve actually looks kind of normal, but essentially they rise a little bit early and kind of peak right there just a little after 2, but this kind of rises early. So most of your energy is from a boosted bass and right there in the vocals. And those kind of sets, tend to all sound very, very similar because you're not really getting a refined vocal. You're just kind of getting a boosted vocal without much happening after it. And they all tend to have a very similar sound, and this one is kind of no different. So the good thing about this one, I think the bass does sound tightish. It doesn't have any blow. It doesn't have any boom. I think their work on the dynamic driver, I think that kind of paid off on the bass. I think it's actually not all that bad. But the downside of this style tuning is rolling down mid-treble. And that's, I think, 7 or 8 where they really start to roll downhill. It's a bit early. And on a single dynamic driver, that is going to sound less technical, sound less lower resolution. And that's exactly what happens on Dynabird. So you do have the bass. I guess it's fine for the tuning. It's really not a bass set. It is boosted, but it's non-distracting. And it's kind of a non-distracting complement to the mids. I think that, again, as I said, the bass is actually okay. But with the mid-treble roll there, they really couldn't push the bass any higher because it would have made it really muddy and really kind of gummed up things. So, again, this is kind of a nice boosted bass. They kind of kept it kind of tight so it doesn't really affect the mids as much as it could have, but, in respect to the other parts that it had to play a part in, it's kind of okay. The mids, very much this V-shaped tuning is going to push the mids back a little bit. So you have this boosted bass. This is kind of pushed up. The lower mids tend to follow a little bit backwards. They tend to sound a little bit more recessed. So you push this a little bit earlier, push it up a little bit higher, and that's exactly what they did. So I wouldn't say this one is overly shouty, but it is shouty. The lack of treble support behind it kind of makes it sound a little bit thinner and less full than it really should be. Again, this adds a really thinness, and a lot of sets kind of moved away from doing this kind of single peak, rising a little bit early because it doesn't have the fullness that you're going to get from the treble. It doesn't have a whole lot of bass support either because they kept this bass presence a little bit lower. So you just end up with something that just kind of sounds okay. I don't know, a little bit thinner. But, it just sounds a little bit unflattering for a custom single dynamic driver. You're kind of expecting they did something special. It should sound a little bit special. This one doesn't necessarily sound all that special. The treble, again, this upper mid, lower treble rise kind of gives you the vocal energy. The dip afterwards keeps it safe. They kind of did dip it here, so you don't get that kind of 5K intensity. They kind of did that right. But the early roll at about 7K or 8K really keeps the overall sound a little less dynamic, less resolving. And people like to put, you grab this set and you're like, oh, it's a single dynamic driver. It's about $100. People expect a little bit of a wow moment. And it's really hard to do a wow moment when you've kind of boosted the bass like this and then roll this off. The wow moment comes from this big sound, this big expansive sound with a lot of space and soundstage. You don't really get that on this one. You kind of just get this kind of bass curve and this, and there's not too much else beyond that. So it never really elevates to the point of a wow moment. So I think they kind of missed on that point. And then stage, again, not really going to be a stage set. Mostly going to be in your head just because they really roll that down, and there's not a whole lot of upper treble energy there. So that is what I got on the Dynabird. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.